In my video, 5 film adaptations I would like to see, I said that I would one day like to see a theatrically released Doctor Who feature film. During the 1960s, 2 feature films inspired by Doctor Who were made in an attempt to capitalise on the popularity of the series' most iconic monsters, the Daleks. Before we begin, be warned this video will include spoilers. Terry Nation's iconic creations made their first appearance in late 1963, in the rather aptly titled Doctor Who serial, The Daleks. Also sometimes referred to as The Mutants, which has never made sense to me given there is another serial with that title. The first of these 2 films was an adaptation of this serial, and was given the equally creative title, Doctor Who and the Daleks. Though it retains the same characters, the series' regular cast members do not appear in the film. William Hartnell, the show's then star, was reportedly disappointed to be replaced for the film. Nevertheless, the title role was instead played by Peter Cushing. And yes, the character is openly referred to throughout the film as Doctor Who, rather than the Doctor. Despite being best known for his roles in horror films, Cushing gives a surprisingly innocent performance.
Most exciting.
His version of the character is a lot warmer and more affectionate than Hartnell's. He also appears to be far more absent-minded.
Oh, well, let's give Harold a chance.
Ian?
Yes, my name's Ian, Doctor Who.
Oh, Harold, how do you do?
His relationship with his granddaughter Susan, played by Roberta Tovey, is especially sweet.
No life? No movement? Here. Can you see anyone?
No.
Let's investigate.
Oh, yes, let's.
Tovey's version of the character is arguably more competent than her television counterpart, despite being both younger and not an alien. Director Gordon Fleming offered to pay Tovey a shilling each time she completed a scene in one take. The young actress ended up making so much money, Fleming did not repeat the offer when shooting the sequel. The film reimagines Jenny Linden's Barbara as Doctor Who's granddaughter, alongside Susan. She and Ian are also a romantic couple. While the series often hinted at this possibility, their official relationship status wasn't confirmed until years later.
And this couple in Cambridge, both professors, Ian and Barbara Chesterton.
Because of this, the serial's romantic subplot involving Barbara and Ganatus was dropped. Roy Castle's performance turns Ian from the heroic male lead he was on television into a bumbling buffoon. Yet he inexplicably ends up being the one to save the day.
Guide! Stop the countdown! The bomb will destroy the planet! Daleks!
Peter Hawkins and David Graham, the voice of Parker in Thunderbirds, provide the Dalek voices in both this film and its sequel, making them the only actors to reprise their roles from the series. Multiple cast members from both films also appeared in the TV series in other roles at various times. Clocking in at an hour and 22 minutes, just under half the length of the original serial, the film's plot is more or less a streamlined version of the Daleks, with the addition of a completely original opening scene introducing these versions of the characters and establishing TARDIS. No, not the TARDIS, just TARDIS. The final scene is embarrassingly silly, but does sort of end the film on a cliffhanger. However, these events are never acknowledged in the sequel. The film is far more comical than the serial. It's clear they were going for a generally lighter tone. For example, Antidus's redemptive self-sacrifice is changed so the character instead survives.
Hey! Get me out of here!
He's all right.
Oh, what a relief.
This tonal shift does make the Daleks themselves less threatening.
You can not get away. Stay where you are. Come down at once.
Classic Doctor Who is often remembered for its low budget and dodgy special effects, despite this reputation often being undeserved. Nevertheless, Doctor Who and the Daleks is impressively cinematic, with its largest sets, more creative camera work, and most notably, the fact it was produced in colour. Doctor Who didn't make the transition to colour until 1970. As such, this was the first opportunity for viewers to see the Daleks in both colour and widescreen. The film takes full advantage of this opportunity by showcasing much more colourful Daleks than those seen on TV. It also boasts far more Daleks on screen than the series could manage at that time. The Daleks themselves were slightly redesigned for their big screen debut. Perhaps most notably, they all featured the large fenders seen on TV in the Dalek Invasion of Earth. Fleming was initially unfamiliar with the Daleks, and didn't realise that the lights on their domes were only supposed to flash in unison with their speech, mostly to identify which Dalek is actually talking. Because of this, many scenes feature Daleks doing their best impression of an emergency services vehicle. Several lines of dialogue had to be rewritten and re-recorded during post-production in order to better match the flashes, which explains this uncharacteristically comedic delivery.
One of you four must go outside the city. Which will it be?
Certain line deliveries are reminiscent of the infamous Gold Dalek from the 1972 serial Day of the Daleks.
Whoever is operating the time machine is an enemy of the Daleks.
Another noticeable difference is the Daleks' weapons. On television, they appeared to emit an all-encompassing field. This effect was achieved by inverting the colours of the image. The now standard death ray didn't appear until the 1975 serial Genesis of the Daleks. For their cinematic debut, the initial plan was to have the Daleks shoot fire from their gun sticks. However, it was decided this would be too frightening for young children, and was instead changed to CO2. Interestingly, the Daleks were later seen wielding flamethrower attachments, dubbed pyroflames, in the 12-episode epic The Daleks' Master Plan. Following production of the film, 3 Dalek props were hired by the BBC. These units actually made their debut in the TV serial The Chase, as it was broadcast before the release of the film. TARDIS more closely resembles an actual police box than its television counterpart. Though unlike the series, the film gives no explanation for this appearance. The prop features clear glass in its window frames, which makes it rather obvious that it is in fact not bigger on the inside at all. TARDIS's interior is completely different. Unlike the version seen on TV, the external police box doors are also seen internally. When the series was revived in 2005, the police box doors were also incorporated into the TARDIS interior. Another clear distinction is TARDIS's apparent lack of security. This film is very much a product of its time, far more so than the series. Nevertheless, a lot of its visuals are genuinely pleasing to look at. It's clear cinematographer John Wilcox wanted to create something visually distinctive, and wasn't afraid to try some interesting angles. The film discards the series' iconic theme music. Replacing it with a far more generic sci-fi score composed by Malcolm Lockyer. The film also includes electronic music composed by Barry Gray, who famously wrote the music for various Gerry Anderson productions, including Thunderbirds and its 2 feature films, Thunderbirds Are Go and Thunderbirds 6, which, of course, I reviewed in a previous video. As an original film, Doctor Who and the Daleks is somewhat lacking. It's certainly entertaining, but not exactly all that memorable. However, as a big screen adaptation of an iconic Doctor Who serial, it is a somewhat unique experience. In the days before catch-up services and home media, it provided viewers an opportunity to relive a piece of television history. The film's sequel was an adaptation of the Daleks' second television serial, The Dalek Invasion of Earth. This title was revamped to become the slightly more punchy Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. The first film felt very studio-bound, which is perhaps appropriate considering the Daleks' inability to leave their city in that film. However, the sequel made use of real locations and more believable sets, making it feel more grounded and, again, appropriately, down to earth. While Peter Cushing and Roberta Tovey both returned for the sequel, Roy Castle and Jenny Linden were unavailable to reprise their roles. As such, Ian and Barbara were replaced by two new characters. Jill Curzon was introduced as Louise, Doctor Who's niece. This guy seems to have an endless supply of female relatives. The bumbling Ian was replaced by the far more likeable Special Police Constable Tom Campbell, played by Bernard Cribbins. Cribbins would eventually return to the world of Doctor Who 41 years later as recurring character Wilfred Mott, the grandfather of companion Donna Noble. Wilf even travelled in the TARDIS in the 10th Doctor's final two-part story, The End of Time.
Right, yes. Bigger on the inside.
Do you like it? I thought it'd be cleaner. Cleaner?
The series 4 finale, The Stolen Earth and Journey's End, saw Cribbins face off against the Daleks once again.
You will come with me.
Will I, Eck?
The four time travellers are separated throughout much of the film, and are often paired with members of the supporting cast. These characters are far more engaging than the first film's Thals. Susan forms quite a sweet bond with the gruff Wyler, played by Andrew Keir. Tovey's performance is just as compelling as in the first film.
Where are you from?
London. My friend's hurt his leg.
Where are you heading?
The Daleks mine in Bedfordshire.
I thought you said Watford.
Well, Grandfather won't stay there, will he, when he finds it full of Daleks? I think he'll go on to the mine. He's bound to be curious.
This film diverges far more from its source material than the first did. For example, the serial takes place either in or after the year 2164.
Ah, here, look. Now then, at least we know the century, dear boy, look.
2164.
However, the film is clearly set in 2150. The story's resolution is slightly different, and is somehow more complicated while also making less scientific sense. Though admittedly, it is fun watching the Daleks get sucked into the Earth's magnetic field. Sadly, the film does not feature the Slither. The Dalek invasion of Earth notably included the first ever companion departure, with the Doctor leaving his granddaughter Susan on Earth to pursue a life with David Campbell. Given Susan is much younger in the films, her romance with Raybrook's David is dropped completely. In fact, the two characters barely share any scenes together. David's surname is never actually mentioned in the film. This was because it had instead been given to Tom. Perhaps David is in fact a distant descendant of SPC Campbell. The iconic scene of a Dalek emerging from the Thames makes just as little sense as it did in the original. Seriously, why was it in there? The script includes several direct quotes from the serial, though given the film's faster pace, many of these carry less emotional weight. This film first established that the Daleks use rels as a unit of time measurement. The term was later adopted by the TV series and is still used today.
Now, must remember, how long's a rel?
This film has a more mature tone than its predecessor, while still remaining family-friendly. The Daleks themselves appear more threatening.
Surrender now, and you will live. Resist, and you will be exterminated. Show yourself in the streets immediately, and obey the orders of your masters, the Daleks.
Although there is one weirdly comedic scene involving the Robomen. The film is more fast-paced than its predecessor. Even the Daleks themselves seem to move more quickly. Cinematographer John Wilcox feels less confined, resulting in more dynamic camera work. The Daleks' designs are mostly unchanged, though the hierarchy is bolstered by the addition of a gold Dalek. Possibly due to its reduced significance in this film, the interior of TARDIS is noticeably different. The previously solid walls were replaced by a curtain. Not a unique occurrence in Doctor Who history. There are a number of quite dangerous looking stunts throughout the film. In fact, stuntman Eddie Powell actually broke his ankle when he fell through an awning, though he still managed to hit his mark and finish the take. The street, seen during the jewellery store robbery in the prologue, is the same one where Wyler and Susan later smash through a Dalek patrol. The set was part of the backlot at Shepperton Studios. While it was obviously reused for convenience, it could conceivably be the same street 184 years later. The Rebels' hideout is located in the London Underground, specifically Embankment Station. At the time, there was no underground station with that name. There had been previously, but it was renamed in 1914. However, in 1976, the station was once again given its original name, in a strange case of life imitating art imitating life. This film includes an early example of product placement. Production was partially financed by the Quaker Oats Company. Various posters advertising the company's Sugar Puff cereal are visible throughout the film. If you're interested in learning more about the production of this film, you should watch the YouTube documentary series Terry Nation Army on the Dalek 6388 channel. I'll put the link in the description. This film features an even more bombastic score than the first, this time composed by Bill McGuffey. Certain tracks actually have quite a jazzy sound to them.
That's it. Come on, get down. Down.
While others are reminiscent of music heard in the original serial. Barry Gray once again provided electronic music. Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD is objectively a better film than its predecessor. The characters, environments, and story all feel more real and therefore compelling. Its differences from the TV serial also make it less predictable. There was talk of a third film based on the Daleks' third TV serial, The Chase. However, when the second film failed to perform at the box office, these plans were dropped. It was also felt that adapting The Chase wouldn't have made a particularly interesting film. At one point it was rumoured a third film had actually been made, but was subsequently lost in a fire prior to release. These claims were completely unfounded. Doctor Who fans have long debated the status of these films, given they clearly don't fit into the series' established canon. Former Doctor Who showrunner Stephen Moffat revealed that there had actually been plans to acknowledge the films in-universe in the 50th anniversary special The Day of the Doctor, but that these plans had been abandoned when the BBC was unable to acquire the rights to the film's poster art. Moffat later revived this idea in his novelisation of the special. In the book, Unit's head of scientific research, Kate Stewart, revealed that the Doctor and Peter Cushing were in fact great friends, though they only realised this when Cushing started showing up in films made long after his death. Though these films are ultimately inferior to the series which inspired them, their mere existence is quite interesting. If you're a fan of early Doctor Who, I recommend you check them out. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this franchise in the comments. Let me know which of these two films is your favourite and why. If you liked this video, why not give it a thumbs up? Maybe share it with a friend. Or an enemy. Either way, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to see more content here on Channel 73.